Dating apps and sites have had a very interesting history. What were once actual tools used by people who wanted to bring together two people that wanted to have a relationship with similar interests has devolved into a bunch of scams and preying grounds trying to get whatever information they can out of people who truly want to seek out a relationship. Long gone are the days of Christian Mingle, Farmers Only, and BlackPeopleMeet.com. It is now a sea of unknown sites that try to bring out any niche thing into the limelight, and hopefully have two people connect over that. One site I covered in the past was one known as DayPlayer2. It was a dating site dedicated to gamers, nerds, and geek culture. But when you investigated it, you found it was a bot-ran phishing site that at the end of the day was trying to siphon information out of you that could be used for things like bank statements. And even then, the site was sketchy when they made you pay for basic materials needed for a dating site, like direct messaging, or uploading certain photos, or allowing to comment on other people's pages. It at the end of the day was a very predatory site that I feel very bad for anyone that actually got involved in it. But recently I had actually watched a video on another dating site that had actually caught my eye, and I wanted to do my own investigation into this site. It's known as Duolicious, a femcel dating site. In order to understand Duolicious a bit more, we need to understand its clientele that it's trying to pitch its market to. More specifically, what is a femcel, and on the other side of that coin, what is an incel? Since both these words in modern times have lost all meaning and definition, we kinda have to take a crash course refresher on what these two words mean. Incel, as many know, is a term short for involuntarily celibate, and it's usually a title you reserve for a man who's trying to have a very satisfying and fulfilling sex life, but finds himself constantly getting rejected. This is the kind of man whose brain is rotted away from porn and believes that the scenarios that happen in adult film project into reality, and that after talking to a woman for 5 minutes, that gives him the leeway and green light to immediately ask her to take off her pants. Whereas on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have a femcel. Now, femcels, instead of looking for a satisfying sex life, just want a long-term relationship, but can only find people who act like incels, who only want to use the femcel for sex and nothing more. And because of this, they constantly go online with these personas projecting their inability to be loved all over the internet. There's a huge clash actually between femcels and incels, where incels say that femcels are being too picky and that there are men that fulfill their needs and satisfactions, but that they're just turning down, and that just like incels, they're swinging outside the ballpark when it comes to dating. Now, when it comes to incels, I will say they're a lot more dangerous than femcels, because not only has the United States Secret Service seen them as a terroristic threat, but Elliot Rodger was actually a famous incel. I'm not going to go too deep into it because Elliot Rodger is a long, disturbing tale and we just don't have that time, but there are great videos out there who have documented him. But when I say that Elliot Rodger was the gold standard for an incel and how disturbed they can be, I truly mean it. Because in 2014, Elliot Rodger would actually go on a killing spree, killing 6 people and wounding 14, using stabbings, shootings, and his own car to hurt people. And his whole reason was to punish women and the men that they were attracted to. He even wrote a 137-page manifesto called My Twisted World, the Elliot Rodger story, where he talked about his struggles his whole life with being a virgin, and blaming women for that, even calling them a plague. And when people say that incel mindsets are dangerous, this is why. This is what it leads to. All this talk of incel and red pill shit leads to a distorted, disgusted mind like this, and it leads to a lot of innocent people being hurt. But anyway, back to the dating site. Now, upon booting up Duolicious as a web page, you'll be met with a very stock template of a dating app. Usually dating apps try to hit 3 points across to you. Number 1, that this experience is absolutely free, though donations are accepted. A lot of these are predatory by having a donation link or donation button on every single page that you go to try and get more information on what you're committing to. The second is how many people are actually actively using this application to try and make you feel a part of a greater community. And the third and final point is how matchmaking works in all this. And guess how many out of 3 this website hits on the head? Yep, all three of them. The first point they make is that they have around 20,000 active users across varying forums. This could be gaming, anime, Pokemon, you name it, they probably have a fandom for it. The second is their matchmaking personality quiz that has more than 24 million answers. Now, this is a very interesting point because this is how their matchmaking is done. But the questions they ask can get very weird, and it all ties into a conspiracy I have about this website. So as I mentioned later, I spent a lot of time on this account. I made it seem personalized, I made it seem real, and I did reach out to a lot of people to try and get conversation starting, trying to see if this pond really did have some fish to it in simpler terms. And so I took a burner email that I had lying around, set it up, and took their personality quiz. A fun fact about this is that their verification for your account being legitimate is them sending a code to your email. Now this code expires after a minute. So it was fun when the code took 15 minutes every time to finally be sent to my email. So it took me forever to actually get a code that I could sign up to this account with. And let me tell you, it isn't fun when you have a burner email and all the spam folder is a bunch of verification codes that don't work to a femcel dating site. But on to the personality quiz, I was actually given a lot of interesting questions to answer, and the questions they give you a very good understanding of what to expect from this site. They would ask you things like, should someone living below the poverty line be legally prevented from having children? If you could choose, would you prefer a world run by everyday people rather than politicians? Is it wrong to take a selfie at a sober event? Would it be better if affirmative action was based on socioeconomic status rather than race? Logically, is it possible to live in a world without evil? Do you believe in the existence of a secret society of lizard people? And if you know anything about me, you bet your bippy I'm betting on those lizard people. The Zuck is basically giving away the farm on that one. But as you'll see in the corner, you'll see that little box that's checked answer publicly. This actually plays a huge role because a lot of people can see what questions you've answered and find middle ground that way. But this also becomes alarming because I've seen people that have answered 8 questions and some people that have answered 800 questions. And let me tell you, the friends list on those people's pages that answered the 800 questions, very, very small. But anyways, back to the video. But one of the more interesting things about this front page is that if you scroll past the 2 links that lead to the App Store for you to download the Duolicious app, you'll reach the testimonials section. Usually when someone gives a testimonial about a dating site, it's in a positive manner or prospect, how they met their future husband or wife on the app, or that they met a lot of interesting people that they're still friends with on the application, and it's usually in a positive light of how this could be a good service to another human being. But for some reason, Duolicious decided to take the counterproductive approach to that and only post negative reviews from mainly 4chan and Reddit. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays out for him. With glowing testimonials like, "This is the worst idea anyone has ever had. Fed honeypot operation. My face when my virgin trad girlfriend gifts me a gun with all the attachments the feds want to ban. Utter garbage. I've had better results on Instagram comment sections. I made an account and I'm having more fun doing the Q&A than actually responding to men. What do I do now? This is just pretty stupid. Just a weird data mining project. Biggest psyop in the history of 4chan. And my personal favorite, I need a girl like Nicole to verbally, emotionally, physically, and sexually abuse me till I have PTSD and need therapy for the rest of my life. Have you tried using the femcel dating site? Kids these days need a lot more than just Jesus. At the top of the homepage, you'll see a bunch of different hyperlinks that lead to various pages within the dating app itself. There's places like the FAQ, the clubs which I mentioned earlier, the safety of the website, the guidelines of the website, and that sweet donation link I also mentioned. But what we're going to focus on right now is the clubs. There's actually a lot of different clubs that this quote-unquote dating app has to offer, from anime to manga to the Autism Club, Gamer, Discord, Weeb, Dark Souls, Music, the V Board, which I believe is video games, Minecraft, Gaming, Metal, A, which is anime board, Overwatch, Roblox, Chainsaw Man specifically for some reason, Loser, Neat, League of Legends, and Pokemon. Neat, for those who don't know, is a term used by 4chaners that describes someone who has no education, no employment, and no trade, which means they're basically just a shut-in who live inside their room, with no sort of job or education to occupy their free time. But let's just dive into one of these clubs, starting with the most popular one, anime. Upon clicking the Join Club link, you'll be met with a small page that says you have been invited to join the club of your choice, as well as them giving an active member count of the club you're joining. All you have to do is accept the invite. Now, I've refreshed this page multiple times, as well as come back to this dating site every so often over a couple of weeks, and this number has stayed pretty stagnant. I haven't seen it go above or below 3,613, which makes me honestly think that there's something really fishy going on here, almost like they're botting this number, and that it's not actually reflecting the true membership. But let's accept the invite, shall we? And in traditional fashion, we're locked out of the club unless we actually sign up for this dating site. Now, I don't feel comfortable giving my email to this site, but thankfully I came prepared like the Boy Scout I am. I have a couple burner accounts I could sign up to this and have us have a peek behind the Iron Curtain, see what the old Wizard of Oz is cooking, so I'll see you in a bit. So let's talk my experience with this site. I had the account that I had created for about a week, and I tried my best to make it seem like there was an actual human behind this profile. I put up pictures, dead memes, and of course, a description of who I was. Yes, my account's name was Fuggus at the end of the day, but that should make no difference to anyone. There were some people on here named Big Black Cockmaster 45, and I looked weird compared to them? Sure. But when I came to actually messaging people, I found that even with a week's time passing, no one came around, which led me to one of two conclusions. Either A, these were stickmen accounts to make it seem like the site's more popular than it is, or these were once human accounts by some of them having actual social media links in their bios that people have long given up on, seeing this site as just another dead end at making friends or even a relationship. There were a lot of people that I apparently matched up with, even though it was very odd that everybody I matched up with was only a 50% chance matching, even after I had answered some very interesting questions, like, would I break up with someone if their ringtone was Baby Shark? But cuckoo, I hear you saying, why not reverse image search some of the profile pictures that these people have put up and see if they're authentic by having any other matches anywhere else on the internet? And that was something I actually did try. I took around 20 to 25 profile pictures throughout the entirety of the clubs and ran them all through TinEye, a reverse image search software that searches the entirety of the internet to see if these images have ended up anywhere else. And unfortunately, all the images I had ended up with no other matches, meaning these accounts are authentic, right? And that's where I think I figured out how they did it. You see, I believe this website was actually created by 4chaners as a joke. There are a lot of ties to 4chan, from the mannerisms to Pepe being on the front page of this website, to the testimonies being ripped from 4chan forums, to some of the abbreviations for the clubs being straight rip-offs of the abbreviations of the forums on 4chan. There's a lot of deep-rooted 4chan mannerisms throughout this website, and that makes me think where they could have gotten these photos. You see, unless a thread is archived like Alex from Tennessee, the threads that happen on 4chan disappear after a while, and they're seamlessly lost to the void and could never be found again, which is what happens to the images people upload. You see, a lot of these images of cosplaying girls on this site that they recommended me could easily be found in the COS category of 4chan, which I believe they just took these images from 4chan and uploaded them onto these profiles and seamlessly gave them the most degenerative descriptions or bios of who these people were, even giving them weird kinks and fetishes just to deep root how creepy and degenerate they are. At the end of the day, I believe this isn't a dating site that's meant to work. I don't think you're ever meant to meet anyone on here, and the people who fall for the prank are all being laughed at from keyboard warriors on 4chan. Now, one last thing I want to talk about before I start wrapping up this video is the donation links I mentioned earlier. If you click on those, you'll be taken to a Ko-fi page where Ko-fi is a lot like GoFundMe, where you can give money to an individual, whether by one-time payments or monthly payments, or to websites like Duolicious to help keep the lights on. and they've already reached their September goal of $400, exceeding it by 56% of what they've been asking for. But the big weird thing about all these supporters and donations is if you go down and look at the people who are supporting this, it's a lot of people without PFPs and nothing in their profile, with very few of them actually having it set up where you could donate money to them. And it feels like at the end of the day, these accounts aren't actually real, and if they are, they're most likely used by the people running Duolicious just to siphon money into their own pocket by making it seem like there are people wanting to support and back this. A lot of them using the same 4chan lingo of wanting to meet their schizo wife, or that there's a lot of mentally unhinged women that they can't wait to meet, how much of a train wreck they are, and that they can't wait to ruin other people's days by introducing themselves to them. You get the point. But it does just feel very ominous and weird that when you go to the top supporters, they're very generic names like Germa, Zach, Mike D, Someone, Period, Itchy, Sam all gave their support. And one of the ones that really made me feel like this was all just a big joke was an account called Don't Close the Pool Bro, a very infamous 4chan meme from way back when in the heydays of the internet. And so I feel like at the end of the day, even this coffee account is just being funneled through self-payments of one's own money to make it seem like there are people actually backing this. Do I believe that there are actual people out here who have given money to the people running Duolicious? Yeah, I truly do believe that. But at the end of the day, what a lot of people complain about is that the gender ratio on this app or dating site is completely borked. There is so many men to so few women, and that the women don't even reply 90% of the time. As well as when I looked it up on Reddit, when people were talking about this, they too complained that no one was ever getting any motion, some of them even going months or even close to half a year without ever actually having any contact with anyone on the app. They said it could have been something good, but at the end of the day just feels like a giant 4chan project meant to troll the internet. And as we've seen, 4chan has gone to great lengths to troll the internet. I mean, 4chan was the website that trolled Shia LaBeouf by constantly moving his flag around just to screw with him. It's clearly proven that they have a lot of time on their hands they don't mind wasting. But this brings us to the big conspiracy around Duolicious that I have seen some crackpot conspiracy theorists toss around. And that's the conspiracy of, is Duolicious actually a honeypot for the FBI to try and track and get information from incels that are deemed a terroristic threat by the US government? And you may be thinking to yourself, do I believe this crackpot conspiracy? And my answer is no. There's a lot of words you could use to define Duolicious. Sketchy and untrustworthy are the two that come to mind for me, but honeypot doesn't seem to fit the bill for me. A honeypot would have more discreetness to it than this, and it just feels like it's bashing you over the head that this is a site that's not meant to be taken seriously. And you could always make the argument about them deceiving you and that's what they want you to think, and fine, we could go at this all day. But again, it's just my opinion that this site was just a joke from its inception to its very end. And if you honestly think these are the lengths the feds need to go to tag and track potential incel threats across America, then by all means, you're free to believe that. But in a world where the internet is constantly monitored by everyone and their mother, it's going to be hard for you not to notice these people being bad actors, having these bad takes or saying these horrendous things over the internet, and having the feds not take some sort of mental note. The NSA already admitted they are watching us 24/7 and know most of what we do with our daily lives. Who's to say that these people's Twitter accounts, their TikToks, everything they do on YouTube and Instagram isn't being watched and monitored? Maybe, if these people truly are a threat, they're already being monitored. And that brings to question, are you too breaking those rules? Are you too in that boat with them, where you have to be watched and monitored? Is your personal life also under the microscope? So this is coming out around 2 or 3 weeks after my Duolicious personal investigation. I wanted to take that time off to focus on editing the video as it was, getting out the segments that I contradicted myself, as well as clear some things up in this segment. I wanted to make sure all my thoughts were out there and clear up any misconceptions I had given, as well as I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any news about Duolicious coming out that was going on during my editing. And the best one I could find was a video that was only a month old that talked about, again, how the site was getting worse. You gotta chase them views, am I right? But Duolicious. Duolicious in the beginning, I believe, was something that was meant to be taken seriously. A project that was supposed to take 4chan and bring it to a dating app, except without all the anonymity. But when you get rid of that anonymity, you really do find how degenerate 4chaners can be. And you fall into one of two categories of people on this website. Either you're mentally unhinged and ready to shoot up your local Walmart with a suicide vest on, and then there are the porn addicted horn dogs, which make up a large population of the website. These are the people whose brains are so rotted away from porn that all they can think about is sex and receiving porn and hentai via other communications rather than Duolicious. There are so many people who will leave their socials in their bio, including their Discord, for you to go follow them and send them porn. There were a lot of women on there that were very weird, where they would accept everything from futanari and maggot porn to gore and insect porn, but they wouldn't allow you to send them dick pics, which is just very sad at the end of the day. Duolicious could have worked as a website. It truly could have. But because of the clientele that it was trying to cater to, it's just not going to work out and never will. And just like the reputation of 4chaners, it's only a downward spiral from here. It's a website that tried to profit off of 4chaners and to this day still does by having people donate to its coffee. But if we know anything about these 4chaners that are professional shut-ins, it's that they don't have that money to burn in the first place, and they most likely have crushes on their siblings because their siblings are the only people that are nice to them in their lives. Duolicious isn't a federal honeypot. It doesn't have the stench of it, and you don't really need a honeypot to look after 4chaners and incels.